I don't believe as a country we have done enough to secure this country. This bunch of insurgents have been operating for nearly 4 or 5 years now. And knowing Nigeria, we used to pride ourselves with one of the best armed forces in this country. I really don't know where things have gone wrong. Is it the armed forces? Is it the political leadership? I just can't believe what is happening. Honestly, I am not in a position to explain this because I'm not in government. I don't know what is, but I don't believe this is a situation that Nigeria would not have dealt a very, very fatal blow within 3 to 6 months. Because I remember when we were in office, such a group that wanted to emerge in Yobe, we smashed that group within a couple of weeks, completely. That such a group should be allowed 4 or 5 years operating in this country and then saying they have even occupied some parts of the country and hosting flag and nobody is doing anything. Please help me ask.
Welcome to this segment of Core Digest. On this segment, we'll be looking at Boko Haram, the Atiku recipe. We've heard questions there that has been raised by the former Vice President of Nigeria on how and why the Boko Haram insurgency has not been contained or dealt with completely. And I have here in the studio Bola Ogba, a political analyst, and who is going to help us out with discussions and looking at different angles that has been made public by the former Vice President. So you're welcome to Core Digest.
Thank you very much for the opportunity once again.
Thank you for being here.
Always honored and humbled to sit on this dialogue platform.
It's all right, so you're welcome. You had the former Vice President raising questions and also saying such similar group was quashed when they were in government within weeks, and why should this last more than 4 or 5 years is questionable. Now, the Boko Haram insurgency itself, he raised questions about whether the military or the political willpower. Now, where really does the problem lie with those 2 areas that he mentioned?
Which 2 areas?
Whether it is the military's inability or the political willpower and inability, those in political authority to deal with Boko Haram.
I am one who believes that former Vice President Atiku Abubakar was a bit clever by half in making that remark. Clever by half because he was, maybe not deliberately, he was a bit too economical with the truth or with the facts of our recent political history. The despicable, despondent circumstance that our armed services are in now is not or did not originate from the assumption of office of President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan. I am not, and everybody knows I am no Jonathan's fan. But one has to be very balanced when one is being analytical. The last time any past administration in this country fortified our military, the last time any administration fortified our military was under Shehu Shagari. And to the best of my knowledge, Shehu Shagari was toppled December 31st, 1983. On 1983, got in Loli Okonsin. Oh, sorry. I tend to flow into Yoruba, so it's my background. A child born on that very same day in 1983, in some of the cultures of Nigeria, would have been sent or would have been a housewife by now. That was the last time. On assumption of power by the Buhari Diagbon military, maybe because Shehu Shagari had recently equipped the military, they didn't do anything. Babangida, who orchestrated a palace coup d'etat to topple Buhari Idi Agbon's administration, lasted almost 8 years in government. In fact, Babangida had every reason. Babangida was actually the leader of this country who deliberately recalibrated southward the potency of the Nigerian military because of the Oka coup. Most of our military formations under Babangida became so hollow because boys were feared then. The paranoia of the so-called president then made him to orchestrate a deliberate effort to hollow in our armed services. When Babangida left, we had Fidihe, Shodakon. They couldn't perhaps do anything. Abacha was a man who learned from the book of Babangida and further perfected the paranoia, the infamy, and the despondency that took roots in the military by also making sure. In fact, in the case of Abacha, things went so southward, so low, that generals were reporting to a major. My brother, Abubakar, it was a feast of money laundering. Oh, sorry, slip of tongue. For 9 months, all he could do was to deplete the coffers of the government. The civilian came on, Obasanjo, from 1999, with Atiku as the vice president. They did not do anything strategic to equip the military. Oh yes, because Obasanjo was the man on the mantle of power then. They used the military in some instances to commit atrocious and very, very despicable this thing in Hodi and some parts of the country where this thing. Oh, maybe if you want to say, and Atiku has the temerity to face a camera before. If we were to be living in a society where people hold their leaders to account, it should not be Atiku that would have the temerity to come on telly and say that he doesn't understand his political leadership has been failing us for as long as and you see, let me wrap up my answer to your question. So, let me wrap up my answer to the particular question with by referring to a celebrated book called The Art of War by Sun Tzu. A Chinese sage who wrote a fantastic book on how to fight wars, which is now like a must read for anybody who is a tactician, a strategist, or whatever. In The Art of War, you know what Sun Tzu says? One of the 5 major factors affecting the success or failure of any military campaign is the moral law. And the moral law pertains to political leadership. People are ready to sacrifice their lives if they were to perceive their political leader, that is the sovereign, if they were to perceive their political leader to be honest and plain. But if they perceive their political leaders to have failed them in the area of honesty, and they see their political leadership to be corrupt, what is presently happening in the Nigerian armed services will happen in that society. People also will think that is when commanders will now, instead of exuding the 5 major characters necessary for a commander to be a victor, that is courage, wisdom, sincerity, and 2 other things. Instead of doing that, commanders also will be looking for how to lay in their pocket, because come to think of it, if you went to school, when you were in NDA, being trained to become an officer of the Nigerian Army, somebody was then in the Nigerian Customs He was also recruited to maybe Ikeja or somewhere in the Nigerian Customs School. And you were in the NDA, the elite paramilitary or military institution in the country. And he was in Nigerian Customs. And 15, 20 years down the road, he had become a multi-billionaire. And you are still struggling, and your wife is calling you. Bola, it was it not you and Atiku that left your village at the same time? You will also start stealing. That is why our military is now. So the man should sit down and be talking that to some.
So is that you're attributing it to corruption now?
My brother, the pervasive phenomenon, the corrosive phenomenon, the debilitating phenomenon that has brought our military to where it is now is corruption. And I dare say to ex-Vice President Atiku that he is one of the most visible faces that Nigerians perceive corruption to wear.
Okay, now let's look at the former Vice President made a reference to how that a similar group was quashed in the administration within a short period of time, and thereby probably is the political will to go after Boko Haram that has made it stay that long.
They were so efficacious in deracinating all those elements that it took Umaru Yar'Adua, a sick president, to find something akin to a sustainable peace in the South. That was how effective they were, how macho they were. Abi, they were so rapaciously effective that, you know, during their own time, no dissident rebel movement could fester that it took Yar'Adua to consummate the sustainable peace of the South. When some people are speaking grammar, they don't know that part of the crevices of their mouth, some untruths are leaking out. People should be critical in the way they marry facts to sometimes the opinion they give. Look, I am no Jonathan apologist. I am one also who believes that President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan is one of the most incompetent, one of the most laid-back presidents that, you see, I tell my friends that I am far more disappointed in Jonathan than any other past leader of this country, because academically, not intellectually, it doesn't seem to me to be a man who is intellectually robust enough, but academically, he carries the best credentials. So I am not here, you know, standing as an apologist of President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan. But Irunjaru, Tiyonjayo, we should not let this business line against him. Was he the one that started Boko Haram?
No, but so many people, apart from Atiku himself, have blamed the present government of not being very forceful and not being very, very straightforward and not been coming headlong against the Boko Haram insurgents, and that is why it has lingered this long. It would have been taken care of
let me recalibrate.
long time ago.
Let me recalibrate and represent myself in such a very comprehensible manner. President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan has failed as a leader to give decisive, surgical, potent leadership. I'm not excusing that. But I will not sit through a melodrama where the father of a thief is now saying, Nibo. That's what I'm telling you. Atiku has no moral latitude to cruise on, to accuse Jonathan of failure. Because I just gave you facts that the administration that he served under, Obasanjo's, it was under that administration that militant, rebellious phenomena like the South militants and some elements in the North started rearing their heads. If they were that efficacious as he's claiming now, how come those movements were not totally deracinated, totally uprooted? so that Yar'Adua and Jonathan could have started on a clean page of just looking at developmental projects. But you and I know that the president that could be given the glory of perfecting what may be said to be a sustainable peace in the South was Yar'Adua. Kolon Foruke. Am I making a point? So, I can Atiku now be telling us that he is the new King Kong.
Now, okay, if this the issue that has made Boko Haram to linger, what could it be tied to?
Oh, my brother,
that it has not been able to be quashed within a short while.
My brother, a lot. And we tend to, as a news analyst, sometimes when I look at footage before me, when I look at some facts before me, when I I don't quite analyze issues the way majority of the people tend to analyze. Let me give you a lot of factors. If you look at, I was watching a Sky News footage about 3 days ago. A Sky News reporter, and you know, in Nigeria, I don't know how you Nigerian reporters, you are comfortable in the studio. Look at your suit. But a Sky News reporter came all the way from England, went to Cameroon, and she got embedded in the expeditionary force, the Cameroonian expeditionary force combating Boko Haram. My brother, when I look at the footage that she came out with from the theater of war, I shook my head. And I shook my head not only for Nigeria, I shook my head for the failure of governance across Africa. One, the first thing I noticed was that the general atmosphere was rustic. And houses I could see, the only form of houses I could see in those places were mud houses. Well, you know what that tells me? It tells me a form of lack of inclusiveness in mainstream governance by those who live there. I want you to be listening to me critically, because, you know, I am no academic, I am no intellectual, but some things, they just tell you a lot of things if you want to look beyond the facade. When I looked at the general environment, I noticed that I could only see mud houses, and mud houses like the kind of ones we used to see when my late mother used to take me to our village in the late 60s and the early 70s. Rustic environment. That tells me automatically that the people living in that area have not been corrupted or assimilated into the infrastructure of governance in the mainstream infrastructure of governance. That is one. When people are outside the infrastructure of governance, when the institutions are not perceived to be representing them, they have a tendency to accommodate rebellious groups, because they will see in those rebellious groups, they will see their aspiration, they will see their iconoclasm, their anti-establishment tendencies being represented by those. That is number one. Number two is that whilst we were failing in the area of governance on the one hand, on the other hand, our so-called ostensible institutions of state, the tendency to be greedy was hollowing out our mainstream institutions. Nigerian Army, Nigerian Air Force. It got to a point, my brother, let me shock you. We got to a point that Nigerian Air Force had no flying aircraft. Nigerian Air Force. Air Force. Even when we were young boys on the streets of Bushi playing Air Force, we will do kiting. We will use kiting to do aircraft. At a point, Nigerian Air Force had no working aircraft. Nigerian Navy were having NNSA Ogori, NNSA this thing, all tied down at Ababa, no moving seacraft. And Nigerian Army was only beautiful looking at the uniform In fact, they don't even know how to iron well than as in those days that we used to see army officers that they are just saying, get us aṣọ tèmi gan fẹ́ yọjú tí wọ́n lọ. Look, we came a long way to where we are. We have collectively signed a pact with atrophy. And our institutions are failing. But apart from the fact that our ostensible institutions are failing, we are even failing the majority of our people. And in any society where you have that unholy alliance, things will be as comatose as we are in now.
Now, when you attributed all this to these reasons, and these are not issues that seems like they could be taken care of in 1 month or 2 months.
We didn't get there in 1 month.
Okay. So is that the reason why fighting this war or taking care of the Boko Haram issue has lingered and has not been able to be stamped out completely?
It will linger. It will linger. And you know why it will linger? Why are you not having phenomena like Boko Haram, ISIS, Jalatu Nasri, these boys in Somalia? Why are you not having them in America, Canada? Why are you not having them in Germany, in Britain? My brother, something just happened in Britain some couple of days ago. A nation, the total population of Britain is about 60 to 65 million. The total population of Scotland is just about 8 million, less than 10 million. And a nation collectively looked at themselves and said, you know what, we are comfortable. If these people want to stay with us, let them voluntarily stay with us. If they don't want to stay with us, let them give them the opportunity to, to yank off themselves, do a referendum. In governance, you know what that means? Even if you are angry against the mainstream government, you at least have an institutionalized mechanism and methodology to ventilate your anger. But in this part of the world, you are failing me in the area of governance. You don't give me any recourse, any institutional recourse to ventilating my anger. It will come out in the area of guns. I tend to tell people, my brother, I tell my friends that if I was not fortunate for my mother, my single parent mother, Yelega, to send me to secondary, to send me to school, I probably would have ended up to as a thug and an armed robber emotion. I'm not excusing the fact that those are, those are pernicious lifestyles. But I'm telling you that if a man lacks opportunity so much, he will resort to it's like the pressure of water, the weakest point of the pipe. What will happen to water there? It will break out. If you fail people,
No,
my brother.
You just made
So
mention
we have to constitutionally, methodically, and through a total change of strategy and worldview, re-engage our populace. But people like you and I, we may not know, we are endangered species in Nigeria. Let me give you a typical example. If we're in a car now, that is why any journey more than 3 to 4 hours drive, I won't drive with you, I will rather fly. If the two of us were to be in a car now, driving to say Ilorin and we are talking and whatever, say between Oyo, between Ogbomoso and Ilorin, some boys stop us. Before they know that you don't have a lot of money, just looking at your suit, before don't have full, because they will think you have the money. You and I, people who look ostensibly middle class, we are endangered species in Nigeria, and the earlier we helped ourselves by helping our majority, we are so disconnected with them. So disconnected with them that we are living dangerously. It is incumbent on people like you and I to make sure that we cry wolf enough to the very fortunate few amongst us who are fortunate to be in the corridors of power. Sorry, is the anger and the passion. You understand what I'm saying?
So how would these ones be integrated now? You talked about integrating them back to the society. Now, how would they be integrated back to society so much so that we could have a palliative ground where people will not have...
I don't like the word palliative. I really like the word permanent or very strategic. But
permanent,
see,
but how do we get to that permanent if
how
we're
we
subscribing
can,
for that?
yeah, for legitimate question, fantastic question. How we can do that is easy. It's not, this is not, I came back to this country less than 10 years ago. I used to do this kind of job for a network in England, and I was making a lot of money. A lot of money. My brother, I once sat before a Nigerian governor for less than 15 minutes, and he gave me 20 million naira. And my bank accounts are there. I used to take money from both the right and the left of Nigerian politics. And not only Nigeria. People who know me when I was in England and when I used to do this know how I used to go across Africa and obnob with presidents and get paid for doing what I love. But as a middle-class Nigerian, we have to be thinking long-term and strategic now. When there's a young man I mentor in England, I will mention names now, so that people will not think that it's just the studio and speaking grammar. There's a young man I mentor in England. He publishes a magazine called I will have it. I just have a rush of this thing now. Yeah. Lekon is his name. One day, about 4 years ago, he came into what I called as an office in a rundown mechanic workshop. He didn't tell me. He said when he was flying back to England, he shook his head that Mr. Gbola Oba, that when I would walk the street of London with, people would be greeting him and ended up like this. Not that I didn't have a visa to go back to England. I have a permanent right of residency in England. He didn't know what I was calibrating there. My brother, but I am one now, I can tell you confidently that in the last 4 years, being the chief strategist of a company, I don't want to be advertising the name of the brand here, I have trained more than 1,700 Nigerian graduates, more than 1,700 Nigerian graduates and artisanal mechanics across this country. There is no major city of Nigeria that I get to, that I don't get people begging me to pay my hotel bills. No major city of Nigeria. There is no major city of Nigeria where I will be in a hotel and I will not see somebody walk up to me and say thank you, not for this voluble lifestyle of commentating on public affairs, that my son or my this thing. It has gotten, without, I am one who does not go to government to go and beg for jobs. It has gotten to the point now where the federal government of Nigeria sent people all the way from Abuja to come to where I call office to partner with us. Solutions will come from people like us. If you're in the world of TV, don't only run TV station, run a training program. Some kids you will train in Lagos will not end up in Lagos, they may end up in Maiduguri. And if they know, if the commander of Boko Haram knows that, my brother is also working at that TV station, he won't let them go and bomb it. Forget about that. In leadership, some people flew literally with $9.3 million to South Africa. Let's convert that to Naira, about 1.5 or so billion Naira. And now let's take 5 million Naira and say we want to empower young, determined, skilled camera man like this to have his own production outfit. We will not only be having quality productions, but the man will not work alone. If he's speaking his camera, at least he will have somebody to help him search the mic. We are the one failing ourselves. We are very myopic, intellectually lazy. And I have a second place I can live. All my children carry foreign passports. I'm not saying this because, and I tell my wife, I am on a legacy project where I am in life now. Look, the people that I'm older than, some of them didn't wake up this morning. We are the one failing our society. We have to recalibrate it, but more so, from the ranks of the middle class. Because you know what? It is the middle class that produces those who are in position of power.
Now, what you've been emphasizing on the middle class, but we are in a system where it seems like from what everyone is saying, we can't do anything except the government does it. Every day you hear people say the government have to do this, the government has to do this, the government has to do that.
Intellectualism. I just told you that I have a visceral loathing for wanting to go back governments for job. I can mention governors that have added value to their campaigns, and I didn't bother to go to them when they became governors. People still look. I was using Fayoshe's money. I was getting £6,000 then every month from Fayoshe for doing PR for him in Europe. 6,000 British pounds every month. Indeed, when it was busted by Obasanjo's this thing, they published my name amongst the EFCC list that he was giving me £18,000 every month. But you know what? I was using Fayoshe's money to work for Fayemi. There was a time I went to a party in one of these Ekiti villages with my wife. Fayemi saw me from afar. He was the chairman of the occasion, and he publicly acknowledged me. My wife, when we were coming back to Lagos, said, "Baby, I can't do Fayemi." I don't go to them. I don't effing go to them. You know why? Because the governor will like you. He approves that they should give you this thing. You will go through a chain of bureaucrats who have perfected the art of rentierism. I would rather like to end up at the junction of Agege Muto Road and Isolo Road selling bolly with style. Put my bolly there and be dancing so that people would not know whether they are coming to look at my dances or buy bolly. But you must do the two. Than to end up having to go and sit in the lobby of one governor you want to see him, and you are sitting in his lobby for 1 week. Any middle class person who does that is far more corrupt than the governor and the civil servants is complaining about.
But how can the middle class change and get to empower those in the lower class without this constant looking up to the government to do stuff in Nigeria, if I should use that language?
I have already said before that the biggest business in markets such as this are government. Ostensibly, it may sound right. But you know what? The biggest thing that will not let you in your life, and I'm talking to you now as a brother and a friend, forget the fact that it may be public. The most strategic thing that will not let you go hungry in your life and not let you beg anybody in your life to eat is for you to be value innovative. This is a phone. Abi? People ordinarily use this phone to call and receive calls. If what you can ordinarily do is to perfect something that can make this phone to just stand like this in your ear. I'm just giving an example, and you can go about doing whatever else you want to do. And if the phone rings, you have a button you press and you talk to it. You are value innovated. You will make money. You will never go hungry. And I just use that as an example. We may also domesticate it to your job. There was a time in my country, Nigeria, when this studio that we are in now would ordinarily have been owned by a government. No. As we speak now, this is a privately owned studio. Some people refused to conform with the limitation of time then and they pushed it. And as I'm talking to you now, this is the only country I've been, not even in England, where you have a dedicated channel for traffic management. You have a dedicated channel for football on radio. My brother, let's value innovate. Our middle class can do it. the quality of the education, you don't know the power of our education as seemingly rickety, seemingly bastardized as it does seem, until you go out to read. Let's think beyond the book. Add something to whatever we do. That is it.
Now, when these things are categorically done, you said this will actually bring a solution to the Boko Haram menace and caught on a long term. Now, let's look at, as we round up, because our time is up and we have to go now. And let's look at in the short term and how this can just be stamped out.
Boko
and
Haram.
People have rest.
Boko Haram,
So.
in the short term. I'm not delusionist. I'm not one who fits myself on the euphoria of this thing. A long chain of imperfections got us to where we are with Boko Haram. And as we speak, leadership still lack morality. So how can we just extirpate Boko Haram like this? That's not possible. We will have to learn to live with it, manage it, and be improving on the areas where we have failed in the past and we are still failing before we can deracinate such this thing.
All right,
Thank God we have not gotten to the level. Thank God we have not gotten to the level that Sierra Leone got to. When even soldiers were rebelling, they call them sober. We still have rebels now. If our institutions keep failing, if the system keeps failing our people, we may have sober.
All right, I think we have to round up here. I wish we have time to discuss more and to talk about some other issues that you've raised, but our time is up. And I want to thank you for coming to discuss the Boko Haram issue and the recipe that is available and should be done to get the challenge away or to get it solved in the long term, like you said. And the challenge that you put forth to the middle class, I hope the Nigerian middle class takes it up. Thank you, Bola, thank you, Bola, for coming. Our viewers, it's been Core Digest, and we'll be talking about Boko Haram and the Atiku recipe. We've been talking with Bola Oba. He is a political analyst and has analyzed the situation and a profile solution and threw a challenge to the middle class in Nigeria. I hope you take up that challenge and be productive and innovative to help others who do not have the opportunity to have a good life. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of the day and join us on Top of the Hour for news and reports. I am Martin Stixon. Bye for now.
Core TV News, expanding your view.